Hello, today I'm going to be walking you through the API Search Lab. So this is a new lab. It's pretty complicated, although I think the total amount of lines of code you're going to write is about 60, which isn't a lot, but it's fairly complicated. So this is the resulting page, and so I'm just going to start here. So this is kind of like the live search lab that you did last week, where you searched a local JSON file. So it's a lot like that, actually. The difference is here, we're not going to be searching a local file, we're going to be searching an API. So we're going to do things like build endpoints, but as far as endpoints go, this is about as simple as that could possibly be. One of the reasons this is going to be pretty difficult is there's two sets of Ajax calls going on here. So one is over here. So this is where it all starts. So this is a text box, and so if I put in something like a P, you see it's doing a search as I type. You can see, so that is similar to the live search lab, just the difference is this is coming from somewhere else instead of local. Now, of course, there's just, like, I don't maintain this API. I don't know what this stuff is down here. I have no idea what that stuff is. Really don't. Like Pikachu cosplay. I don't know how I'm supposed to manage that, so I'm not going to. Sure, I think those are the things that actually matter, but whatever, there's other stuff coming up, and I guess that's okay. More is better. So you can see I've got an Ajax call going on here because I'm dynamically updating the page based on some kind of a call to some external resource. Now there's a second API call going on here. If I click on this one, it does that, right? So there's two sets of calls going on here. There's the key up event going here, which populates this list, and then clicking on the items in that list populates this div over here. This div is left, this div is right. I'm giving you a tour so you can understand what we're trying to do here. Now I just referred to this as a list. Yeah, it is a list. I do agree that it is a list, but I made it into a table because I wanted to give you as many worthwhile skills to practice on this as I could, and so one of those skills is always formatting your results as a table. You know that's a good trick because we've done it before. So these clicks over here, so just to be clear, the thing that's weird and tricky about this, and also very common actually if you're going to build something that works off an API, is you got this set of this is the result of API calls, and then I'm using those API calls to generate more API calls. And it usually is something like this, actually. So, like, this is pulling up a more specific set of data, which is just relevant to that. So that's the big scheme here. I tried to go kind of light on the CSS. One of the cool things about the Live Search Lab was the animation and the cool CSS and the nice presentation. Here I tried to trim that stuff out as much as I could so we can just focus on the API calls. All right, so that's what we're doing. So in order to do this, you're going to need a couple data files. One is the PokeAPI Lab, right? This is your starter. This is the HTML. There's kind of a lot of CSS in here. I tried to not do any more. I wish I would have made this thing prettier, but I didn't want to make it any more complicated than it was, and I also didn't have any good ideas. So you got that, and the other data file you're going to need is this curl starter, which I've given you in the week. So this curl starter just says some generic stuff about weather underground, right? You're not even going to use this, but my idea always was that anytime you're going to do a curl using PHP, you should just use this and then just alter it to be what you need it to be. That's my best advice for you. All right, so here's where we start off. Here's our instructions. I tried to write these as well as I could. I don't know if you're going to look at them or not because you're watching this video, and I'm pretty sure you're going to have to watch this video to get through this because it's too hard to explain these things. This is a pretty complicated project, but like I said, I just wanted to try and cover what I could with this. A lot of stuff happening, but in terms of raw code written, it's not a whole lot. Alright, so the first thing you'll need to do is get your basic Jquery Setup. So what that means is get a script tag. I meant to delete this, but you know how this goes. It's the same as it's been the past couple weeks. It's a copy and paste of some link to some Jquery hosted somewhere. I'll try to remember to pull this out on the data file I give you, but worst case, you'll have to add it. So that's step one. I've already given you your script tags. Step two is the whole document ready thing, which, you know, same stuff again. that we do every other time, but that doesn't, I mean, it's still newish to you. So we're going to call an anonymous function here. Open close parentheses, open curly brace, enter, close curly brace, close parentheses, semicolon. That is probably getting to be a little, I don't know, a little less awkward than it was a couple weeks ago, but it's still awkward. So document.ready function. And I always like to make sure that I've linked to jQuery properly and written this line properly, which is weird. So I'll throw a weird little alert here just to make sure that things are working. And I'm going to run that. Now, since that is how that should work, it doesn't do anything, but you are going to need to run this through localhost. So that means it needs to be in your htdocs folder somewhere. No space is allowed in your file paths, because as you might have remembered or might have learned, I don't know, maybe you don't know it, but I'm going to crack open the console. You'll see there's like that, I don't remember what the error is, but you do get an error if you don't run it through localhost when you try and do an Ajax call. It says like a cross origin request or something. So the fix for that is putting it in, right, running XAMPP, running it through your htdocs folder. So even though I'm just not going to have that problem, because I'm still dealing with it just the same. All right, so when I say setup, that's what I mean by setup. So if you got your alert, then that means you got jQuery. That means you got your document ready, kind of set up to do this, and that'd be a good first step. All right, step 2, we want an Ajax call on the key up event for the search field Poke. All right, so your form's pretty simple. It's where the heck is that thing? Poke. Oh, there it is. Sorry. I hope it's not one of those days, because it's going to be long enough. So it's that thing, right? There's no buttons, there's no forms, there's just a single input of type text with an ID of Poke. So let's bind some events. So I need to select that thing, so it's an ID, so hashtag or pound sign. It's a pound sign. I don't know why I call it hashtag. I guess I'm using the term hashtag more than I used to, so I call it a hashtag, but I don't know what it is. All right, and like I said, we're going to do a key up. You know about key up because it's kind of the thing we've been doing a lot with Ajax. It's not, I don't even know that key up is really the right thing to do. Change is probably the more productive thing to do, but key up lets you see that these calls are happening every time you press a key, so I like it for that. But in reality, I wouldn't always do key up. So on that, I'm going to call an anonymous function, opening curly brace, enter, closing curly brace, closing parenthesis, semicolon. I'm going to comment that out. I'm going to call that key up. I now realize I should have commented that out. I'm going to call that ready. You could see this is a horrible mess of just stuff, so I like commenting it out. Even though there's not going to be a whole lot of code here. I mean, it's going to be complicated, but there's not going to be a lot of it. So how about an alert here? Is this going to be annoying? You betcha. But I like to know that I've properly bound an event to a control. So if I click here, type something, I should get an alert. If I don't get an alert, check your console, because you might have some kind of a good syntax error down there. You might have no errors, which would probably mean that your ID doesn't work. I mean that your ID didn't correspond to something. That would be my guess. All right. So here I'm going to kind of I'm going to do something without explaining it real well. I care what is in this field, so I'm going to create a variable to store the value that is there. Now, I don't have to do that, but I'm going to do that because I'm going to do an Ajax call in a minute, and that Ajax call is going to be a pretty long string with some concatenation in it, so I'm going to try and make my life easier by creating a variable called search and setting it equal to the value of this, which is just, $this val. So, right, we're in Ajax. We're in jQuery world, so this is going to reference that, and val is going to get us the value. You could log that. I mean, I don't think, if you want to see what's happening, which I think is a fine idea, you could log that, and that might make you happy to see what's happening there. Ultimately, those kind of debugging steps and the stuff you put in the console is what's going to make your life easier or not. You can see that's happening. Because if you don't get that, then nothing else is going to work. All right, so now it's time for the Ajax call. So we're going to do $get. So get is going to be appropriate here. We used get JSON last week, but that was because the thing we were calling was giving us back JSON, and then we were processing the JSON within the scope of this thing. Here, the thing I'm going to call is going to be a PHP script, and a PHP could return JSON, but the PHP is going to return formatted HTML here, so get's going to be the right call. So this is kind of a weird step. So this is going to be the name of the script that I'm going to call, which is undefined at this point. There's going to be two PHP scripts. I'm going to call one of them like search and one of them details. So I'm going to call it PokeSearch.php. That's going to be the name of the script, which I'm going to create, which doesn't exist. And I'm going to revisit that in a second here. So the first thing is the name of the script. The second thing is what is supposed to happen, and in that case, it's going to be an anonymous function. It's going to have this data argument, and that's going to be data is going to be what we get back from the call. So opening curly brace, enter, enter, closing curly brace, closing parenthesis, semicolon. I'm going to comment that out and call it get. All right, so I'm generating Ajax calls when you do a key up on the Poke field. And so, you know how I'm putting in there like P, right? Like Pikachu, or I don't know, Pokemon that start with a P. Or to be clear, they don't have to start with it. The way I'm going to write this is to just have to contain a P or whatever it is. So I got this variable here, and I need to get it over to this file somehow. So hopefully you know how to do that at this point. If you don't, it's going to go like this. So that's like the root file. A question mark is what separates the key value pairs from the root. And then I'll say, I'm going to call it search. I kind of like that, and I kind of don't like it. So search, this is going to be what the variable is going to be called over in PHP land. And the value is going to be that thing, which is different. And I'm going to have to concatenate that on, so that's going to be plus, because concatenation in JavaScript is plus. And there's that search equals search. I don't know if I like doing that or not. I like it for consistency's sake, but this is just an arbitrary name that I'm making up, and I'm going to pick it out on the PHP file. This right here is a reference to that variable. That's not. This is whatever. And that right there is roughly, that's it. I mean, that's that. There is another part of this, and that's going to be what we do with the results that we get back from this Ajax call. But that's kind of like a chicken egg situation. I guess probably the best way to illustrate this would be to just kind of dummy it out for now. So these results are going to get displayed in that div with an ID of left. So I'm going to select that div, and I'll say .html something. Obviously that's not the end game, but that's the entirety of it, what this is. The difference is going to be that at some point that just trash string of something is going to get replaced by data. But we haven't defined data yet, so it's all weird. Let's see what this looks like. This is an okay time to debug. It shouldn't do a whole lot. I mean, I guess it should say something down here, I think. Something like that. Actually, I misspoke. It's not left. It's results. It's this empty div right there, because I'm not looking to overwrite what I have. And so I'm sitting here wondering why it's not doing anything. I think the reason it's not doing anything is that this file doesn't work. So this thing, right, like I said, it's a chicken egg thing. It's a horse cart thing. I need to write this script before I can do anything. So I probably should have waited to do this, but whatever, we'll just deal with it later. So what we need to do now is to create this file here. So just to make my life a little more foolproof, I'm going to copy that, because that is actually going to be the name of the file, and I don't really want to mistype it later. And so, like I said, this is going to be an Ajax call, and that Ajax call is going to be carried out this curl start thing, right? So this thing right here. I'm trying to think of the best way to do this. So I don't want to just lose this. I think what I'm going to do is I got my curl start. I know I just did a copy. I'm going to select all, copy it, create a new document, paste it, and I'm going to name that. I think this is the right way to do this. Where am I? I think I'm here. I don't know where I actually don't know where I'm at. And I said I was going to call this what? PokeSearch? I know I'm going to need that curl starter multiple times, so I don't want to just substitute straight into it. And I don't know what I did. Is it called PokeSearch? Okay, seems good. All right, so here's this deal, right? So, like I said, there's not going to be any Weather Underground stuff about this. But what I am going to do is I've given you the endpoint. It's over here. See this thing? That's the endpoint. Well, it's the base, and it's the endpoint. So that goes here. Now, I'll tell you what this is. So this is searching all the Pokemon, and then it's a limit of 1,000. So there's all kinds of stuff that you're just not seeing here. Like I had to spend a couple days learning how this API works. This API by default gives you 20 results, and it gives you these links to the next page, and that was going to be really difficult to deal with. So I say limit 1,000 because I think there's about 1,000 total Pokemon in this thing. So that's why that is. So I upped the limit just so we didn't have to deal with pagination. Now there's no key, and there's no, well, I mean, we could break this apart into an endpoint, but I'm telling you, it's so simple. That's all there is. Now the interesting thing here is, you know, we passed it this search value. This endpoint here, it can take a search value, but it doesn't work the way you want it to. Like it's searching for an exact match. If this was a database, it would be select star from Pokemon where name equals search term. So like if you type in Pikachu, you'd get Pikachu, but if you put in a P, you'd get nothing. This thing just isn't meant to interpret alike. So what we're doing, to be clear here, and it's a weird example in that regard, is I'm just going to return all 1,000 Pokemon, and I am going to then use just native PHP functions to search through it for matching Pokemon. I wish that this supported a search, but it doesn't. Again, it does, but it only looks for an exact match, and that doesn't really work for us. The good news is we don't have to build up a complicated endpoint because it's not complicated. All right. With that said, we are still going to need to get that search value. It's just not going to be built onto the endpoint. So the first thing I'm going to do is get that search value. So I'm going to call it $search equals $_get search. And that right there is a reference to that thing right there. Like I said, it's not going to go on the endpoint, but we are going to use it later. And so there's my service URL, and all this is just, that's going to take care of my call right there. And it's going to be my job to actually iterate through that with that at some point. I think this is testable at this point. So this right here is just a big mess, right? It's just going to spit out. Oh, well, that's a different kind of annoying. But I think we can test this just to see if it's totally busted or not. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to head back to this PokeAPI. And you notice something where I was like, I don't know, should I do this or not? Well, it's already time to not do that. Let's just do data. So data is going to be a reference to whatever this produces. And what this produces, oh, it's not going to be cool. It's going to be like 1,000 rows of madness wrapped in pre-tags. So I don't know, but at least we can kind of see if our endpoint's formed correctly or not. I don't even want to see what this looks like. All right, so you know I said 1,000. It's actually 964. So really, I mean, I guess, so you know that 1,000, which is just hard-coded into the URL, that probably should be 964, because I don't think it's even possible to get more than 964. But the reason I did the 1,000 is I thought maybe they're going to a little room for them to add more. Because I don't think there's any harm in saying I'd like up to 1,000 if there's not 1,000. All right, anyways, so looking at that crazy result. All right, so let's have a look at this. So that returns an array. Count is the number of matching results. Next and previous, I don't even want to try and explain that. So by default, this gives you 20 rows of results. Next is the link to the next 20 results, and previous is the link to the previous 20 results. That's what you call pagination, which is how you handle having, hundreds or thousands of results. But I really didn't want to deal with that, so I'm just saying, hey, give me all of them. And so I don't actually care about that. I don't care about that. I don't care about that. The only part of this array that I care about is results. Results is where the actual Pokemon come from. And so that's an indexed array, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see the offsets, and each one of those is an array of its own, so it's a nested array. And there's two things in each one of them, the name of it and the URL to it. All right, so this URL here, I'll show you, like this right here, and I will do this a few times today. I'm trying to copy it, but I'm not having it's driving me crazy. Oh, why is it selecting like that? Oh my gosh, that's frustrating. I want to copy. Fine, I'm going to pause it and just manually enter it. I can't copy it. I can't tell you how frustrating that is. All right, so what I really wanted to do was take this URL and put it in a new tab and see how it goes. Because I just wanted to show you what those are links to. So each one of these, like you see, this is minimal, right? It's just the name of the Pokemon and some link. That link is where all the information about that Pokemon is, and this is a crazy set of data. It's like 1,000 rows or more. I have no idea what most of this is. Like, there's abilities. There's 2 arrays and abilities. The first one has like chlorophyll, right? I don't know that much about Pokemon. And then that's array 0. That's the one I'm going to use when the time comes. Here's array 1. I don't get this. I'm thinking maybe Pokemon have different abilities in different generations of the game. I'm sorry for making this about Pokemon. I just, didn't matter what we dug into. There was going to be details. And then forms. You see how there's subarrays, and I don't know what half this stuff is, and I don't need you to know what half of it is either. I'm just kind of showing you what this looks like. So that link right there is all the details about the Pokemon. So back in that functional example, you can see like this part over here comes from that in-depth JSON file, and this comes from the first one. Hopefully that helps make some sense. I don't know. If I were you, I would never hesitate to take those URLs, paste them into a address bar, and see what you get back. There's a ton of stuff here. Like moves is the craziest one, like this, right? And every one of those expands. This is one of the reasons I like doing this in a web browser, is that it has this, you can expand and collapse all the things pretty easily. Sprites is pretty cool. Sprites is like where the back and the front come from. So like if you want to know where that picture comes from, like that thing right there, that is that path right there. So there's all kinds of information in here. Most of it you don't care about. Some of it you do care about. And when the time comes, like when I said when I had to spend days figuring out what in the heck this JSON looks like, it's because I got to pick through this stuff and figure out what the heck is useful and what I want to display and what I don't want to display. So you see, not so good. Really, all we actually want to display is the name. And so indexing into that's going to be a little weird. It's going to be a key called arrays, and then a key which is just an index, and then a key for name. Right, results, some index, name. That's kind of what it looks like. So let's take some action on that. All right, so this is cool. I'm going to leave this in here because I think it's very useful, but at the end I'm going to get rid of all that. So what I need to do now is start building up that string. So this is going to be a little similar to how it was last week. So the first thing I'm going to do is add an if block, and this if block is going to be something about the search term. I'll show you what I mean. So I'll say something like if search is equal to nothing, right? That's going to be the situation where where somehow you did a key up, but you didn't have anything in there. So it's really going to be a backspace. Sorry, let me go back one. This is going to be an output string that we're going to build up. So let me declare that here, just empty string. So I'll say out equals, please enter a search term. this lab is very much me talking. Like I said, it's only about 60 lines of code. It's just complicated. And I guess in my example, I made that an H2, which I don't know if that's the right thing or not, but it's a thing, and I did it. So this is the case where somehow you did a key up, but there's nothing there. And there's kind of there's two other cases. So here in this else, there's going to be yet another kind of it's not exactly nested. You'll see how I do it, but there's going to be the case where there are matching ones, and there's going to be the case where there are not matching ones. So here's how I'm going to do that. I'm going to create a flag here. I'm going to call it found, and I'm going to initialize it to false. I'm going to assume that the search term is not going to match with anything. You can do this however you want, but that's how I'm going to do it. And then in here is where I'm going to write the results for generating a table full of all the matches. And then down here at the end, I'll say if not found. I do like that, but I'm going to say if found equals false. I know this is chicken egg thing, right? I don't know the right way to do this. Then that's going to be where I'm going to say no results found. And then in here is where I'm going to build up the table of the results. So it's either going to be, hey, enter a search term, whatever happens here where we do have results, and or whatever happens here where there's no results. So right here is where I'm going to start building up that table. So out equals, I'm just going to do a table, opening table tag. So I'm going to open the table tag here. I'm going to close the table tag here. This is concatenation, so watch out for that because you could mess that up. So this right here is actually going to be a row in the table saying no results. This is not going to be in the table. It's just going to be saying, hey, enter a search term. So I open my table, I close my table. Doesn't matter how many rows are in it. And then right here, I'm going to do a for each loop. And this for each is going to iterate through that huge set of 964 Pokemon. And I'm going to check using PHP as to whether it contains the substring, P or PI or whatever we're looking at here. So for each is going to look like this. So the name of the thing that you want to iterate over, in this case, it's called, it's not exactly results. It's called, all right, it's decoded, which is that right there, right? So that's the JSON decoded thing. And then I have to index into it like crazy. And so when I say that, I mean, so you got it. Results, that's the first index. And if you look at it in a web browser like that, that's why I keep these in here, this part down. That's why I keep that in here, so you can see what you're doing. So it's called results. That's the thing I want to iterate over, and then that's the first thing, that's the second thing, that's the third thing. Those keys are meaningless, right? They're just keys or indices. I don't know, same thing. So I'm going to iterate over those. And then that syntax is as key val. The val's the only thing I actually care about here. So, I guess if the only thing you care about is the val, you could do that, which is fine, so I guess I will. So here I'm going to have a little if, because I need an if to search. Right, so, and I'm going to search using a function called strpos. It's short for string position, so it's like a sub index of function, or I think so, or I'm trying to think whatever. In other languages it's called something different. So in this, how it works is you pass it the name of the documentation on this is you pass it the haystack and then the needle. So you're searching for a needle in a haystack. The haystack here is val, like that's going to be the name of the Pokemon, and the thing you're looking for is that search term that was passed in. So that's a reference to that. So I'm searching that haystack for that needle. this thing evaluates to true when it finds it. So if this thing evaluates to true, then that means we have a row for our table. So that means out dot equals, and then this is going to be pretty gross here. I mean, it's actually going to be super gross. I'm going to do opening and closing tarch tags, opening and closing td tags. You can see the potential for this to go off the rails, so I'm a pretty big fan of opening and closing everything right as soon as we do it. All right. So inside of those TD tags, that's going to be the thing that's actually going to get displayed. That's going to be an index into an array, so I'm going to have to wrap that in curly braces. And that is going to be val, and I need to know what the name of the field is. Looking at our example here, it's name. So, like that. Now there's more to go here. I mean, this is almost the entire thing, so if you're like, oh my gosh, what the heck's going on? Well, I tried to explain it the best I can. I'm going pretty slow. I'm not writing code very quickly, that's for sure. But this should be testable. There's one more nasty thing that we have to deal with that we haven't dealt with, but let's see how this goes. I don't know how it's going to go. Actually, I do know that there's one thing. I'm not even going to test it yet because I've built up this output string here, but I need to echo it. I can tell you that. I need to echo the out. This is going to be a disaster. It's going to be this, hopefully it's going to be this table and then that big old set of pre-tags and whatever's in between it right there. All right, P. Okay, well, I've seen, well, I don't know. It's not good. Strip pos expects parameter 1 to be a string. Array given. What did I do wrong? Oh, it's val name. Right, that makes sense. It's same as it is there, right? So the complaint that I was getting was that, how do I show you? See, like that's an array. It didn't know whether I wanted to look at the URL or the name. So that's a good mistake because that actually makes sense and might actually even help you learn something. All right, PI. Okay, that is every Pokemon that has a PI in it. And you see there's the giant thing below it. Now here's the crazy thing. All right, so this is cool. At this point we've done a dynamic search. There's part of me that wanted to just call it good right here. Because you are, at this point, doing Ajax and you're searching an API. But in reality, oftentimes you have to generate a second call off of that first call. So I do want to go that extra mile here. So I want these things to be clickable, and I want these to pull up the detail page. So here's how this works. It's kind of tricky. So I need to find a way to embed like the ID of Caterpie and Vulpix and Rapidash. I need to find a way to get that ID into these TDs because these TDs are going to be clickable. I mean, if they were links, then that would be the href of the link, but they're not links because we're not going to a different resource. We're doing a separate Ajax call. So what I wish was the case here, but it's not. Like the name is cool. We definitely want that. What I wish was here was another field called ID. So in my first attempt at this, I attempted to give each one of these TDs here a unique ID, and then we could fetch that ID and pass that off to the API in a different endpoint. But that's not there. We only have two things to work with. We have that, and we have this. Now, granted, that is the ID. I wish that we could just get the ID out of it, and I did think about parsing these strings and picking those out, but instead, hey, let's just use that URL that they're giving us. So let me show you how you can do that. It's pretty not cool looking. I don't know how to do this in a way that's going to look not ridiculous. All right, so basically any element in HTML can have what you call like a data, like custom data. So data prefix and then hyphen, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to call it data link because that's what it is. It's a link to the thing. And I'm just defining a custom property is what I'm doing here. All right, so it kind of looks like that, and then I'm going to index in an array, so that's going to be a set of curly braces. And what I'm going to do, it's val, and the name of the field is URL. So I'm going to take that URL and I'm going to embed it into the TD as a data link. You could call this whatever. This could be data car, data dog. It doesn't matter what it is. It's a link in this case, so I'm calling it a link. So now each one of those TDs has a property called data link, which is a reference to the URL for the thing. I think that'll work. I don't think I did anything too bold there. Now, I guess I could probably inspect that element. And do you see what it looks like? So there's a TD inside of a TR, and it's got this data link. And that thing right there, I don't think I'm allowed to select it, but if you took and pasted that into a browser, actually, so that's Caterpie or something, I guess, and it's ID 10. You know this thing I was showing you earlier? There's Caterpie, I guess. I don't actually know if that's Caterpie. I think it's Caterpie. You see how this is all expanded? Do you see how it is the reference right there? And so that's what we're going to use. We're going to rely on that for our second Ajax call. So you're way over halfway done at this point. I don't know how much that makes you feel better or not, but let's start the second half of this. So that part is all done. The only thing we have left to do here is attach those click events to the TDs. Well, I say only. I mean, yeah, I guess you can say that about anything. We got to attach click events to those TDs, and then we have to write another PHP script to return the formatted HTML that we want. So let's get going with that. So that's going to be document. I feel like I wrote that wrong. I didn't. .on, and then this function. If you don't remember how this one works, you pass it the event that you're attaching, which in this case is click. The second thing is the selector. The selector here is TD. It's just every TD. I mean, if for some reason you have another TD on your table, you'd need like a class or something, but we don't need that here. And then it's going to be an anonymous function, opening curly brace, enter, closing curly brace, closing parenthesis, semicolon. That's my on. And so in here we just bound a click event to all those TDs that we're generating. If I wanted to help myself out, I could maybe do like console.log of this. I guess that's maybe a good test to make sure that we've properly bound a click to them. So refresh, PI, I click on, let me pop that console, I click on one of these, and you can expand that, and you can see there's that link that I wanted. And I click on that one, that's like hop hip or something. You can kind of see what's happening. You see that data link that's there? That's going to be super useful pretty shortly. All right, so at this point, I can conclude that we have attached click events to those TDs that we're generating dynamically, and you can see that link is in there. So I need to pick that link out of there, basically, is what I need to do. So I'll show you how to do that. This is going to be new to you, so I'll call it link. And I'm going to use a jQuery to do this. So I'm going to reference the thing that you clicked on. And there is a thing called attr. This is a function in jQuery which fetches the property of the attribute. In this case, our attribute was called, I'm just going to copy and paste it because I don't remember what it was called. It was that thing, data link. So that's the name of the attribute that we gave it, right? It's a custom attribute. So I'm saying, hey, link is going to be whatever was there. And at this point, you know that whole console.logging thing? I guess if you want to see how this works, this would be a good time to do that. And instead of this, I'm going to log link. I mean, it's going to provide similar results, but you'll kind of see what I'm doing. So I fetched it. I fetched that link there. Let's spit it in the console here. Click on and there's that link. Now, at this point, I just realized, you know, when I do something like this, sorry, like that, I actually didn't deal with that no results found thing. So I actually need to do that. So back over to PokeSearch. You know, there's an else. There's just an else I didn't do. Oh yeah, I just have a comment saying no results. So that's not right. Instead, what I want is out dot equals, and let's just do a row open close. Let's also throw a TD in there. And that TD is just going to say no results found, right? And that's different than please enter a search term. Save that. Let me go test it again. We're almost done. Whether it seems like that's true or not, it's true, right? There's no results found. Oh, I don't know what I did. Something bad. I don't know. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about when you press backspace and sometimes it kills the localhost part of it. I guess that's what I did. And you click on one of these things and you get the URL there. All right, so here we are back at our main page. We know that's working, and so now what we have to do is an Ajax call. It's going to be very similar to what we did before. So $.get, right? We're doing get because the thing we get back is going to be formatted HTML as opposed to JSON. And so now this is one of those weird steps where you got to figure out what the script's going to be called. I'm going to call mine PokeDetails. It doesn't exist yet, so I don't know. It's whatever you want to call it. And we're also going to need to pass this link, because that link is how we're going to get the endpoint. It's weird because we're passing the endpoint. I wish we were just passing the ID and then we could build the endpoint, but we're passing the whole endpoint. So I don't know, I guess that's good. So let's build that up now. So the thing that separates the root from the key value pair is a question mark, and I'll call it link equals, and then link is going to equal link, and then comma. So that was the name of the script. The next thing is what you want to happen, and that's going to be an anonymous function. Opening curly brace, enter, closing curly brace, closing parenthesis, semicolon. That's our get. So we're calling PokeDetails. We're going to pass it that link. And then in here, what we're going to do is we're going to update the contents of the div with an ID of right. And data is what we're going to put in there. And data is what I forgot to do right there. I mean, this might not make a ton of sense, and I mean, just glancing at it, but I'm telling you, it's going to be just like it went there. This file generated some stuff, and we returned it as data, and then we displayed data. On this one, this file, which doesn't exist yet, is going to process that. It's going to return something. We're going to call it data, and it's going to go on the right. So it doesn't exist yet, so I can't really test it. Now, when I create this PokeDetails thing, I'm going to start with curl start, select everything, copy it, new file, paste it, and then I'm going to name this thing PokeDetails. Which makes me wonder where I've been saving. Okay, I think we're good. All right, so this one's different than this one. It's going to be easy to get confused, right? So search you're already done with. We got to do details. So in search, I just spoon-fed you that endpoint, and you pasted it. Here, you don't need to do that. I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to get rid of this because there's no key. There's not really an endpoint. I'm going to say, before we do the base URL, I'm going to do URL, or no, I called it link, I think. Link equals $_get link. And that is a reference to that. Now in this case, the service URL is actually just the link. That's why this is kind of a weird example, because normally you build an endpoint, but here they were giving us the endpoint, so we just had to pass it to here. None of this stuff's going to change at all. That's just housekeeping. And I don't see any harm in leaving this here for now. It'll kind of let us know how it's working. It's going to be ridiculously formatted, but I don't know. I think that's okay. So refresh, click on something, and then I should get a big gross set of JSON over there if this thing's working right. And it is. And at this point, you should realize, what the heck, right? Like, I don't know. A lot of stuff there. So I had to spend a lot of time figuring out what in the heck is in there that I actually care about. So I said we wanted to display their name, an image, the type, and the abilities. Those are the things we want to display. So the easiest way to look at it is like this. There's abilities, There's name, and you see how they're all in different subarrays? So like if I want the name, that's going to be species name. Those are my two indices that I'll need, and you know, well, why not do that one first? So I kind of apologize so I'm going to get rid of this. I'm just going to cheat. You would certainly want to have that there because it might help you to look through the JSON and figure it out, but I'm cheating because I've already done this. I already know how to get through that JSON and where the things are that I want. So I'm going to do that now. Now I apologize that this is kind of formatted more than would be easiest to do. In any case, we're going to start with this string we're going to build up. And so what we're going to spit out here is going to be a div. And it has an ID of PokeCard. Now, you actually cannot call that whatever you want. It's called a PokeCard because I wrote some CSS for PokeCard. Right, it's like that stuff. So you actually do need to call it PokeCard. All right, and yeah, if I started it there, I might as well close it. So concatenate, just close off that div. All right, so there's going to be some div, and it's going to have our results in it. So regardless of what whether you're looking at Pokemon or Jigglypuff, it doesn't matter. There's going to be a div on it. Now the rest of it is not going to be the case like that. So let's concatenate on that name just to get going with this. So my name is in an H1. So I'm going to open and close H1 tags, and then it's just a matter of indexing into the thing that we want to display. And when you're indexing into an array, that means this thing needs to be in curly braces. All right, so to show you what we're trying to do, we're trying to get to species name. So that's going to be species name. Those are the two things we're going to write. So it's going to be decoded is a reference to that. Species and name, like that. And then at the end here, let's echo that out. Let's just, you know, and I think this is gonna go well, I think, because we're gonna get to see it get built one at a time. So here I am. I put a PI, click on that, and I get that. You see there's that div. Whatever it looks like. I was trying to make it look like a Pokemon card, but there was too much work, and that work gets passed on to you, so I'm really not trying to do that. So that's that, and then the rest of this is just working our way through that JSON file. Next thing's going to be out dot equals, and I'm going to say this is the species one. So I did that as a, I'm trying to think, what did I do that as? Another H1, I guess. I don't know. This is where things get arbitrary. If you want to do things differently, if you want to write different CSS, then go ahead. I don't know. Is it type? Species? I don't know. I don't know what it is. I'm calling it an H2. I'm already going back on what I said. And I'll say species. And then here's where I'm going to index to an array. So it's written in curly braces. So it's going to be decoded. And what's the index on this? I know I already said it, but I already forgot to. It's oh, actually I didn't look at it. Oh, it's not species, it's type I want. I don't think species is very interesting. Stats is definitely no good. Oh, it's types. So it's types. Oh, this one's rough. It's types, type, name. I know it's brutal. But it just is what it is. So it's types, type. I know it looks like I'm just looking at this and figuring it out, and I kind of am, but I also totally ran through this earlier, so I'm better equipped to do this pretty quickly than you would be if you were just doing it. All right. Swing and a miss. All right, so that didn't work. Undefined index type. So that means types, type, name. Oh, what types? I don't know. I'm not sure what the problem is here. I'll look at it in the interest of keeping this shorter. Okay, so I see what the problem is. I just wasn't looking at it right. So it's types, and then it's some array, index 0. I didn't see that was indented from that, so there's actually a 0 in there. So index into that first. So it's 0 types type name. I guess that seems ridiculous, but it's fine. Oh, it didn't like that offset 0 either. And I see what the problem is. It's types 0 type. I was just kind of bragging about how I don't make too many mistakes because I've spent time on this, but even if you spent time on it, it's not logical, right? No one's bound by that constraint. Stuff can be as nested as it is. I mean, I don't know, why would it be set up like that? I have no idea, but it is. All right, now we're getting there. And if you're like, oh my gosh, that seems difficult to deal with that JSON, well, yes, it is difficult to deal with that JSON because I have no say in how it's formatted, right? It's formatted how it's formatted. So I said we were going to do the name, the species, the image, and the abilities. So we're actually close. All right, so let's do that image. So let's go out. Dot equals. I mean, this part's tough, but it's the cool part too, right? It's when we're fetching the actual details. It's an image tag, and its src is equal to something. And I think I gave mine, they're super small by default, so I did width 200. I don't know if that's good or not, but I mean, it's going to look pixelized, but I like it. I don't know, I like it, I guess. And then a line break after that. And so we got to figure out where's the path to that. Well, it's going to be in curly braces, whatever it is. The path is sprites. So it's sprites front default with an underscore. Decoded sprites front underscore default. That should work. The good news is it's easy to test. And you know what, if it doesn't work, you see what I'll get. I'll get some kind of index not defined. Okay, good. And then the last part is the abilities. Now, sorry, I hate to tell you, but abilities is going to be the most difficult thing. So let me show you about abilities. Abilities is this first one here. So do you see how there's like a 0 and a 1? Some of them have one array, just index 0, and some of them have multiple arrays. I have no idea. So like this guy can run away, and this guy can shield dust. I don't know. I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking that this is the first ability, this is the second ability, but I'm telling you that's not how this works. Sometimes there's only one ability in there. All right, bad example. I'm telling you I have seen ones that only have one ability. I know, it kind of looks like there's a 0 and a 1. I don't know, maybe. I guess. Yeah, I guess you don't know how many things are in there, so we're gonna have to iterate through it. I guess it's so. I think I misspoke, but I'm just trying to figure out how this works. Some of them only have 0. All right. So here's what I meant to say. I guess is that some of them only have one ability and some of them have more abilities. So like I wanted to just initially index into 0 ability and just spit that out, but some of them have more abilities than others. I don't know anything about Pokemon, so I'm really not the person. Oh, see, there's a good one. See how there's like you don't know what's in here until you look. So some of them have more abilities than others. Some of them have less abilities. So that means we can't just index into it. We're going to need to iterate over it. And if we want to iterate over it, that means we're going to need a for each. But before I do that, I'm going to do a little concatenation under our output string, and I'm going to do a little. I'm going to make this an H3. And it's just going to be abilities, because these things are going to look like nonsense if they don't have a heading on them. Hey, maybe they already do look like nonsense. And then here's where I'm going to do that for each. And here's where I'm going to iterate over that array of abilities and build onto this string. So the thing I'm looking at is called decoded, and specifically its abilities. So I can help myself here by going abilities. So I'm going to iterate through that array as val, and then we're going to build up a string for each row. So that's going to be out dot equals. I didn't make these into a heading. I'm just doing them. In other words, it's going to look like this. I'm going to start with the line break, which goes at the end, and then here I'm going to have curly braces. So I'll say val, and the index is called name. All right, so it's, sorry, I got to go deeper than I want. So that's the thing I'm iterating through. That's the index I'm on. It's ability name. So that's going to be ability. You see, I don't know, I think I'm okay at this, but it's just tough. All right, so that should give me that, I think. That should give me the list of abilities. Oh, what is this guy with 3 abilities? That's a Pidgey. All right, I take that back. I don't actually care. Actually, sure, let's click on Pidgey. Wait a minute, why do I not get Pidgey? Isn't that interesting? I just pulled up Pidgey, but then I can't find Pidgey in this search. I don't know. That makes me wonder how that's working. But I don't really want to try and figure it out at this point. All right, chest spin, I guess. And there's some abilities. Now, why I can't find this Pidgey character is a different thing. But I don't really care to solve that right now because we're almost at an hour. And I think this thing does pretty much what I wanted it to do. I am a little concerned why I can't find Pidgey. I'm sure there's a good reason for that. I just don't know what it is. So this is a difficult project. So we got like one set of Ajax calls refreshing this list. Then we got this generating a secondary Ajax call. We also did some custom data, which is probably news to you, or new to you. News and news. And there's a lot of things going on here. Hopefully you're able to follow along. If you get stuck, let me know. This, like I said, I know there was a lot of stuff here, but we didn't actually write that much code. Maybe 50 lines of code. It was just super complicated what we were doing. So there were 3 files. There was the root page with these instructions, a couple events, some on, Poke search, Poke details. If you want to take some liberties and make this nicer looking in terms of CSS, then please do. So hopefully you've ended up with a functional Pokemon search tool. And if you want to figure out why the heck this thing doesn't find Pidgey, I am somewhat interested. Also wondering why I don't have Pikachu in here. I have a guess at that, actually. I think I actually know. Let's fix that. All right, so there's 2 things I actually blew off. I realized I just want to get this. I just want to make this thing end. Over here, where is it? It's that search. Where is our string position? This thing right here. So this is a weird function. So Pidgey starts with Pidgey. So that's returning 0, and that's evaluating to false. So that's the problem. So this is a triple equal situation. So false checks the type, not just the value. So if I go triple equal, and if I take that and I wrap that in a knot, that's going to fix our problems. All right, I'm looking at my clock and I'm at an hour. I'm going to have to go over an hour and just fix this. So that is going to fix that. Well, put that there. So the problem is this thing needs to return like an actual false, not just a 0. So that triple equals thing, that's going to be that fix, I think. I'm thinking about it, and I think that's how that works. Pidgey. Cool, right? Oh, that's weird. It gets no results found at the end. Now, what is that all about? I don't know what that's all about. Is there always a no results found? So that's going to be something logical. Oh, we never flipped the flag to true. you see I'm overly concerned with getting this thing done. I'm gonna have to render a video that's over an hour, and I just don't know how that's gonna work, but I guess that's my problem. So now that should get rid of that. Now the only thing left is this one. I'll show you the oh, oops. So do you see all this junk down here? It's time to get rid of that too. I'll show you the one problem that exists that I didn't solve because I just kind of got bound up on time. If I do something real generic like this, I get all these weird things down here at the bottom, and some of them don't have images. You see that? I don't know why, they just don't. So over here, you know where we did this image thing? This actually needs to be an if. I'm sorry for going back like this. I'm just trying to get this done. So the way you search for that is, you know this thing right here, this decoded sprites front default? Trust me, I've looked at the JSON enough to know that if that is equal to null, then there's nothing there. Otherwise, there is something there. Right, so that'll be our else. And in the other case, we'll go out dot equals no image available. I don't know why there's no image available. There's just not any image available. All right, so let's see if that works exactly the way I want it to. We're gonna have to do something super generic, like just type in a P and then go to get these weird ones with the hyphens in them, and no image available. But if you do Paris, you get an image available. All right, so that didn't take too long to get that all polished up. At this point, I think it's doing everything it should do. It's a complicated project. On one hand, I'm sorry for dragging you through something so complicated. On the other hand, I really want to do something cool, and so this is my best attempt at that. So I really hope this goes all right for you. If not, let me know, and I'll do the best I can to help you out. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed.